and welcome to another edition of Leafless, Not Lifeless. I'm Sharon Benjamin, your host. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Leafless, Not Lifeless. I am so pleased that you are going to be sharing with me. So Chuck Colson served time in prison, 7 months, if I remember correctly, for his involvement in President Nixon's Watergate scandal. After Colson was released, he felt the urging, he said in his book, to actually help inmates. So in 1976, he started Prison Fellowship, which is now the largest ministry to help those who are still incarcerated, ex-inmates, and their families. And I had the great fortune in April 7th, 2024, I was at National Community Church in Washington, D.C., and Heather Rice Minus actually shared some information about Prison Fellowship's Second Chance. And the pastor was very gracious to me, took me over because I told him I wanted to find out more about the program. So he took me over to speak with Heather, who shared with me about Second Chance. That was a great opportunity for me. And she gave me some information about the Prison Fellowship and upcoming events. And I have another great opportunity to have someone to share with me about Prison Fellowship. You're going to get a lot of good information. His name is Willie Mitchell. Welcome, Willie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you're able to join me. I am excited to talk to you and for you to share with the listeners and viewers about your story, about your journey, and how you have become so involved with helping those who are former inmates, those who are still incarcerated, and the families. So first of all, I understand you are an ambassador for Prison Fellowship. What does that really mean, and what are your responsibilities in that role?
Well, as a justice ambassador, it's advocacy to bring awareness to the community about the stigmas and barriers that returning citizens face after they are released and return to society. We also establish peer relationships in prison with the incarcerated men and women to help them put tools in their toolbox for when they return back to society to reduce recidivism.
So what was your initial involvement with Prison Fellowship?
Initially, since I'm a returning citizen, I came home with the zeal to make a difference, to have an impact not only on the people that I left who were incarcerated, but also to make an impact into society. I was actually looking for an opportunity to serve. And what happened was, I was on the website and I ran across Prison Fellowship, and I applied and saw the Justice Ambassador prompts. And after a short amount of time, I was accepted as a Justice Ambassador. I had the privilege of going and being a part of a cohort and learning more about Prison Fellowship, and actually fell in love with the whole process and the opportunity to just be a Justice Ambassador.
So you did not become acquainted with Prison Fellowship while you were incarcerated?
No, the only association that I had with Prison Fellowship has an Angel Tree program, and that program actually connects men and women who are incarcerated with their families during the holiday seasons. Prison Fellowship has established a system to where the children of the incarcerated can receive a gift and a card from their mother or father who is incarcerated, just really to bring hope, to let them know that they haven't been abandoned.
So at what point did you decide to make a change in your life? Was it before you left incarceration, or at what point did that happen?
Actually, it happened during incarceration. A portion of my story, uh, being incarcerated, I was at a prison in the north region of Houston, and I actually had a visit from my mother. Uh, because of my behavior at the time, I was in an isolated portion of the prison, and she had to drive about 8 hours to get to me. And during the visit, she said something that was very impactful. Uh, and if I may share that, she said that you are not the son that my husband and I raised. And if I can, I would like to have my son back. And as impactful as those words were, they did very little to penetrate the callousness of my heart. It would be a decade later that the reality of that would occur on December the 20th, which is a day that I celebrate my mother's birthday. I called her and had a very pleasant conversation with her. 5 days later, on Christmas, my mother passed. And the reality of me never coming to the standard that she required of me, that was my turning point. It was then that I realized that I had to change my life and be the man that I was called and created to be, and to be the son that my mother desired.
That is an awesome, awesome turning point. That's amazing. It's
Mhm.
amazing what our parents can do, right? Just from the
Yes,
words
ma'am.
just from the words that they say. That's amazing. So at that point, how much longer did you have to serve after that conversation?
Uh, at that point, I served probably about 3 years of incarceration before I would be released. During that time, I busied myself with education. I achieved my degree. I accepted my call into the ministry. I became a licensed and ordained minister.
And
I
this is
became a
while you
belief
were,
therapist.
and this is
Ma'am?
while you were incarcerated. You became an,
Yes, ma'am.
oh,
Yes, ma'am. I became a belief therapist and a reentry crisis counselor. I began to work in the Christian community there incarcerated. I made a tremendous amount of contacts that I work with currently now since I returned home.
so you were doing a lot before you left the prison system.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Just my attempt to give back and to pay it forward, the grace and mercy that I received once I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and that transformation. One of the things that I desired for other people to experience, that that coming into being that I did.
That sounds a bit like what Chuck Colson said. He said after he left incarceration, he felt the need to
Yes, ma'am.
actually help those who were still incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
So it sounds as if you're doing that now. You started a ministry. What, tell us about Reclaim Ministry.
Well, Reclaim Ministries was actually born while I was incarcerated, and I had an opportunity to formulate it there. But Reclaim Ministries, in essence, is just really taking in God's revelation of the incarcerated peoples, their royal identity. One of my professors through Therapon Institute said that people do what they do because they believe what they believe. So if a person believes lower than they should of themselves, of course, their actions will actually be made manifest. So at Reclaim Ministries, we go in and we share with the men and women exactly who they are according to God's narrative. And also we just take in a plain or realistic proclamation. One of the things that I found out is that people who have come to Christ and believe in Christ, they just really want to know, how can I maintain my relationship with Christ living in the world that I live in? And at the end of the day, not feeling that I have failed at that. So we just take in, an ordinary proclamation in language that they can understand, not really talking over their head, and just sharing within the principles of God's word.
How difficult is it to actually get through to, we are influenced by our environment.
Yes, ma'am.
And we, even if nothing is said, whatever is in our environment, it's almost like osmosis. So
Hmm.
how difficult is it for you to reach those who have, as you said, were in certain situations where they just lived out what they had experienced in their environment.
Well, it's not really difficult. I served about 18 years in prison. And as far as the incarcerated community, I'm pretty much acclimated into everything that happens or anything that might be able to go on. Using that narrative and that language, we're able to connect because it's all about connectivity. There was a gentleman who wrote a book. His name is the Noble Drew Ali, and he says that people need a leader who just doesn't point the way. A sign can do that. They actually need someone who has blazed the trail. And I take all of the experiences, all of my lows and highs, and I use that to just show the goodness and the grace of God and the power of God, because I don't believe that I'm any different from anyone else. And if God can do what he has done in my life, having come through all that I've come through, surely he can do it in theirs.
That's amazing. So, what are the different aspects of Reclaim Ministries?
The different aspects of Reclaim Ministries, as I said, we establish peer relationships. We come alongside with them after they have made a decision to change their lives. We help them establish smart goals, realistic goals. And we have a component that we're establishing now as far as reentry once they return. And we also get involved with their families, to let them know that these men and women have made a decision to change their lives and to be transformed. But what we don't want them to have changed and come back into an environment that's not conducive of their change. So we work on both ends of the spectrum, helping the men and women who are incarcerated and also helping the family to where these people can come back into a healthy environment.
Prison Policy Initiative says there are about 1.9 million people incarcerated, and wisevoter.com talks about the great number of recidivism. So, what do you think are some of the reasons that the rate of recidivism is what it is now?
Barriers. One of the things is the narratives. As I was having a discussion last night, as a matter of fact, during incarceration, the incarcerated community are called offenders. They're called inmates. And these terms are used by people who are kind of negative in their experience. So we try to help change the narrative in society from inmate and offender to returning citizen, using terms that edify human dignity instead of taking it away. That's one of the things that we try to help. Also, through Prison Fellowship, I've been educated in about the 44,000 other stigmas and barriers that are in place that really hinder, reentry. We deal with education, we deal with housing, and other elements along that, medical and things of that nature. Because when these returning citizens come home after paying their debt to society, we believe that they should be able to acclimate into society without these stigmas and barriers, to just give them a chance. And by no means are we asking for a handout. By no means are we asking for special treatment. We're just asking for an even starting line,
So for
to where, yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
so for you, what are some of the strategies or ideas that you used while you were incarcerated that helped to keep your hope alive?
Actually, just God's word and actually understanding it. I had several people pouring into my life uh, that were not enabling me, but were telling me the truth in love. All of us as humans, we have all of these great ideas and high expectations, but they help me be realistic. And that's one of the things that I share with the men and women that I have the privilege of communicating with. Just be realistic, about your time, and utilizing your time to build yourself, to come out and be successful. In prison, there is a lot of time wasted. We have the term, don't let time do you, do time, and make the best of it. There are several opportunities within TDCJID for people to educate themselves, uh, to become astute mentally, spiritually, educationally. And we go in and show them how they can take advantage of these opportunities that are leading to them returning to society.
So you became an ordained minister while you were incarcerated. So it sounds as if you came out with certain skills already, but
Yes,
did you still have to deal with the stigma of having been incarcerated?
yes, ma'am.
So
Before my incarceration,
how did you deal with that?
uh, actually, it's me personally. It was an opportunity to be depressed. To be honest, uh, before I went in prison, I have an associate's degree in culinary arts. I actually was doing that before my incarceration, and one of the things that hindered my employment initially when I came out is that because now I had a felony, I was not able to go back into that profession, even after being educated in it and having the skills. I had to lean on what is referred to as a second chance employer, just to fulfill the mandate of parole conditions, which is I have to be gainfully employed, and also as a man bringing in income, so I would no longer be a liability but an asset. And that's one of the things that we help them through Prison Fellowship Academy. I'm actually teaching a class last week and this week about employment skills, taking the skills that we gained during our incarceration and knowing how to make them apply, when we go on job interviews, because there are a lot of skills that are there that could be utilized in society.
That is amazing. So how does prison fellowship help in this regard? I think you talked about it a little bit, but how does prison fellowship help with this?
Uh, Actually, Prison Fellowship in the field of advocacy, I think that they are the culture changer in the realm of advocacy. They deal with, the grassroots issues. You know, they have a research team that actually goes in and looks at all of these barriers, and actually, in some cases, actually goes to Washington and meets with lawmakers, uh, and actually just try to bring them on board with the changes that need to be made in society as far as removing some of these laws that reinforce the barriers. Also, Prison Fellowship Academy, which is another division of Prison Fellowship, they actually go in and they have classes. One of the classes that they offer is the change plan. So while Prison Fellowship as justice ambassadors are on the outside advocating, they're also going on the inside through the Prison Fellowship Academy and working on the men. And we share with them that you have several hundred or thousands of people on the outside advocating for you, but you are the best advocate for yourself if you acquire the skills and make the changes that you need to make when you come out into society and be the person that we're advocating that you're going to be.
So you became a volunteer chaplain and mentor at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. What do you do in that role?
We go in under Reclaim Ministries and we add to their spiritual experience. We fellowship with them in some of the primary worship settings. As a mentor, I've been blessed to go in and just share with them, the change, this transition from being incarcerated to now being into society. Uh, a lot of the discussions that we have is, look, you've acquired a certain mentality while you've been incarcerated, and that may or may not fit out here in society. So you have to make some psychological changes or some cognitive changes to be able to come into society and be successful.
So how do you see, I want to find out about the impact of Reclaim Ministries. What is the success rate, or have you looked at any data and how your ministry, the ministry is helping the
Well, actually, as far as success rate, on in the spiritual realm, we have led about 225 people to the point of making a decision to accept Christ. We have plans on doing some baptism here in the future. We have had maybe about 20 people who have re-entered into society. We're in contact with them. Most of them are at what is referred to as a halfway house. They're gainfully employed. They're maintaining their relationship with God through Jesus Christ, and they are ready to actually go back in and just to be a testament to what is possible once you just make a decision to say yes.
and the family involvement. What is the family involvement aspect with those who are still, having to visit their incarcerated parents and
Mhm.
relatives? What is,
It's
go ahead.
it's pretty strenuous. I would love to say that uh, we have a great success rate as far as the men and women who have returned to societies and returned home. A lot of times, that's not really the issue, and we go in and we share with them, the goals that they set. And sadly to say, sometimes the next decision is to remove themselves from an environment that's not healthy. Uh, about 85% of men and women who return to society return back to the place that was a prerequisite for them committing the crimes that they committed. And that environment has not changed. We share with them that ultimately parole is their responsibility, and they have to take that responsibility very heavily and just make a decision sometime not to parole back home, but to go to a halfway house or to go to another program so they can continue on their journey of change.
This sounds like a major burden, especially when you talk about people having to go back to the same environment.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it can be a real challenge, I'm sure,
Yes, ma'am, it can.
for them to have to do that. So I want to get your information, because how can people get in touch with you, find out about Reclaim Ministries?
Reclaim Ministries, they can follow us at our website at reclaimministries.us. And as far as Prison Fellowship goes, you can go to prisonfellowship.org and follow the prompts there. They have one that is very important, get involved. And once you click on that, um, and the drop down menu will show you all of the initiative that Prison Fellowship offers. And just, I guess the overall thing, just bring about awareness, to let people know that there are stigmas and there are barriers that foster the negative spectrum of recidivism. That there is a statistic that says that about 85%, I believe, of men and women who return to society within 2 to 3 years reoffend because of these stigmas and barriers that are in place. So bringing to light these stigmas and barriers are very important. We would love to have a 100% success rate in that area of advocacy. Uh, but I don't believe personally that it's there yet. It's growing. because you have a great deal of returning citizens who are successful. They're entrepreneurs, they're using their skills, they're making marvelous contributions to society, and they just desire to be able to live as citizens.
I know that the prison system, a lot of areas have become privatized now.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
there a greater challenge for ministries or people to go in to actually help the incarcerated? Or is it
Uh,
pretty, I know there's all the background check and that whole
mhm.
piece of security, but in
Yes,
terms
ma'am.
of being able to go in and actually help?
No, ma'am. Actually, as far as Texas is concerned, uh, you can go to TDCJID, and once again, they have a get involved tab. You can drop it down and look at the volunteer. There's a training, and of course, there's a background check. There is a waiting period, and you can get involved. You can actually go back in. One of the things that we do battle with, because there are not a lot of chaplains within TDCJ, and they have to share different units, and of course they're very busy. So there's some patience that you have to exercise, but there are opportunities, and not only going in prison, uh, but actually, you know, getting involved in your local church, or like getting involved with prison fellowship. When you look at the statistics, I believe that there are 1 in 3 of all American adults have a criminal record. So there are people who are directly impacted and indirectly impacted by incarceration. If you're a mentor, consider hiring a returning citizen. If there's someone else, if you have a particular skill set, you know, get involved with, maybe sharing those skills, with someone as an apprentice and things of that nature, just to bring them in so they can successfully acclimate back into society. But overall, getting involved, you can get involved by going in, but you can also be involved on the outside as well.
Another very important question, we talk, it's mainly about the adults, but what about the children of the incarcerated? What are you doing to support them? And, children without their parents, and sometimes they may end up in foster care or in other situations. What are you doing to support the children?
As far as supporting the children, uh, they have a ministry that I work actually with, uh, that they facilitate what is called a day with dads. And what that is actually, uh, the child is contacted if there's a situation to where the child is with another parent. We try to bring them in so they can interact, with the parent that is incarcerated. Prison fellowship, as we talked about earlier, they have this program called Angel Tree, to where the incarcerated parent can actually be, a part of the child's life, through gift giving and attention. Uh, as you know, Father's Day is coming up pretty soon, and we will be going in and we will be specifically sharing with the men, look, although you're incarcerated, that does not vacate your responsibility as far as being connected, you know, with the child. Excuse me. You still have the responsibility to be a father. You still have the responsibility to provide guidance. You still have the responsibility to provide all of the time that that child needs, and you still have the responsibility of establishing the bond. So don't allow incarceration to stop you from fulfilling your responsibilities. And it has been pretty successful. We have seen severed relationships reconnected, through that, and it's just been a wonderful experience.
So that's a success rate right there.
Yes, ma'am.
That's good to hear. Willie Mitchell, thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Leafless, Not Lifeless. I am so glad that you took the time to share with me and the
Yes, ma'am.
audience about Prison Fellowship, the Second Chance Ministry as an entity of Prison Fellowship, and your Reclaim Ministries. So tell us again how people can reach you.
Reclaim Ministries at reclaimministry.us. That's our website. All of our contact information is there. If you would like, you can reach out and we can have a discussion about the need for second chances. Our motto is we are helping people unlock second chances. I have a wonderful team. My wife works with me. Some other ministers are there and a part of it. And we're just available, to give out any information that you might need to answer any questions. And also, once again, you can go to prisonfellowship.org and get involved. We would love to have you become a part of the advocacy, spreading awareness and just helping the formerly incarcerated and those who are incarcerated and their families just overcome all of these stigmas and barriers, so that we can just, live, together and create a safer society.
Before we leave, you are going to be receiving a degree very soon in the future.
Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
us about that. Tell us about it.
I am a student at Southwestern Biblical Seminary. I'm working toward my bachelor's in ministry. I chose that field because I believe that ministry should be relevant. Not to say that ministry is not relevant now, but I don't want to just serve in ministry. I want to be able to create ministries that impact people's lives exactly where they are. And I also believe that one of the greatest impact that you can make is by sharing your story and using your experience, because experiences are common. People go through things every day throughout their lives, and they have a tendency of thinking that they're in it alone. So when you share your story, you have an aha moment, and you know that someone else has gone through it and made it, and that's the greatest hope ever.
That is impactful. Again, Willie Mitchell, thank you so much for sharing with us about Prison Fellowship and your
Thank you.
ministry, Reclaim
Mhm.
Ministries. And
Yes,
for
ma'am.
those of you listening and watching, thank you so much. I'm Sharon Benjamin, your host for Leafless, Not Lifeless. Thank you so much. And if you have a story where you might have seemed to have been leafless, but you were really growing and developing, you may contact me at leaflessnotlifeless@gmail.com. Or if you are in a situation where you, like Willie, you're actually helping others to grow, leaflessnotlifeless@gmail.com. I love to hear from you. And thanks again for watching and listening. And Willie, thank you for being with me so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Again, thanks for watching and listening. And I will see you the next time for the next edition of Leafless, Not Lifeless.